Please welcome Bobby.
Hi. Good afternoon. How's everyone doing? They say if I speak well, crypto prices will go up today. Keep talking, yeah. Is that a good thing? Have prices been going down too much lately? Yeah. All right, so let me find my clicker right here. So how was lunch? Good lunch? Who's here in Vegas for the first time? Oh, some new people here. That's great. Okay, so I'm going to here talk about freedom of money. We live in a free society, especially in America, a free country. Not all of us have this pleasure to live in a free country. But what I've realized over the last few years in crypto is that Bitcoin truly represents freedom of money. And without freedom of money, we're really not free. And this is a new concept that people don't realize very much. Essentially, well, let's see if this works. Essentially, in today, all of finance, it's all about control. People's money, as long as you have money in bank accounts, you have stocks with brokerages, you hold your gold in bank vaults. It turns out that for the vast majority of your assets, it's all under someone else's control. And for the first time in human society, in whatever 4,000 of years of society, just the last 10 years, we really finally have control back of our own assets. And here's what I mean by that. The financial institutions have all the control over all your money and all your assets, whether it's banks, whether it's online payment systems like PayPal, WeChat Pay, Alipay, and credit cards. And even the digital versions of them, whether it's reward programs, gift cards. Think about gift cards. Some of you have gift cards. I have a Best Buy gift card in my wallet. And this is really a symbol of control, because the value in here is purely determined by what Best Buy wants to honor it or not. So whether it's your airline mile, hotel reward points, all these digital so-called coupons are all controlled by the companies and the regulators, and they're disguised as good for you. And they have absolute control over your money, which is why, when, recently we've seen in Turkey a crisis with the currency. I don't think they had it queuing up at the ATMs, but certainly 5 years ago in Cyprus, there was a instance where they tried to do a haircut on people's bank account, and people literally went out and queued up in front of the ATMs to get their money out. Because when your money is with banks, when things go well, no problem. They give you some measly interest rate. But when the shit hits the fan, so to speak, there's a mad rush to get your money out. How many of you have seen controls on your money in bank accounts? I recently, in Las Vegas, I came here to gamble a little bit, and I realized that my bank only allows me to withdraw $500 a day through the ATM. If you try to raise a limit, I call my bank to raise a limit. The most they'll do is $1,000. And they just won't let you withdraw more for my own good, right? So they disguise it as for my own good. And then when I travel to out of state, they even block my ATM cards. They're like, hey, you're not supposed to be here. You're in California. You're in Nevada. Why are you traveling around so fast? So I don't know if that's happened to some of you. It turns out that even with cash, when you think of cash, the banks have control. So some people think, oh, I get the cash out. Now I have control of my own money. Not so fast. If any of you are from India, you remember 2 years ago, they just declared the banknotes no longer valid. They just barely gave 24 hours notice. The 500 and 1,000 rupee note on the bottom right-hand corner, it was declared invalid. And you had to, however many days to return it. And it's not just countries like India, but even European countries. Anyone from the UK? From British people? They canceled your £5 note. Did you know that? The old version that's not the plastic kind, the paper kind, they just canceled it. And they're going to do the same with a £10 note. So of course, historically, we saw this happen with, post-war Germany all the old Deutschmarks were all wiped out. And of course, hyperinflation in Zimbabwe. Now we're seeing it in Turkey. I should update my slides. And of course, India very recently as well. So they control, you might have the paper money, but the value of it is purely controlled by the central bank. And here's the teaser, the brain teaser. Is there a fiat money banknote that will actually never depreciate in value? What do you think? Is there such a thing? Any Europeans here? I love Europe because the ECB, the European Central Bank, got it right. I was in Europe earlier this year, and I found a banknote that actually is the holy grail of banknotes. It will never depreciate in value. Now, I'm not talking about the $500 bank, the euro, right? Any of you have the $500 euro? That has a lot of value. But even that is depreciating every year. They even think about eliminating the 500 euro banknote. But the one that will not depreciate is this one. It's also purple in color. It's the €0 banknote. And I have one. I got mine in Monaco. And because this is a true note, because it really does say what this will go to, which is 0. So if you have a chance, you can buy one of these, and at least you know it's not going to go below €0, you know. So our future, I talk about freedom of money, but our future is about having that freedom back in our control. Of course, we know we're in the digital age, the age of the internet, you know, IoT, artificial intelligence, all the buzzwords. But what I'm really passionate about is cryptocurrency, digital assets, okay? For the first 20 years of the internet revolution, it's been about communications, about applications, and most recently about mobile apps, and eventually about AI, Internet of Things, and all that. But what's happened in the background, you know, in this crypto industry in the last 10 years is the emergence of digital assets, the invention of digital assets. And for the first time, what we're saying is that mathematics, we can trust in math. We don't have to lay our trust in banking systems, in countries, in central banks, in paper money or plastic money. We don't have to trust, you know, dead people on pieces of paper that hold your value for you. And different countries in the world are going through this crisis, you know, whether it's, you know, Germany, India, whether it's Zimbabwe, now most recently in Turkey. And, you know, hopefully, knock on wood, it won't happen in the United States or China or Europe. But we just don't know. Because in the end, if someone screws up, it could all go down. Now, we're trusting mathematics. What we're saying here is the algorithms, the fact that simple equations like 1 + 1 = 2. I believe that mathematics will hold up for much, much longer, forever, if you will, than any single country or government, than any single central bank or any single regulator or printing of banknotes or even digital money. And what this means is that with the notion of private keys in cryptography and encryption and hashes and all that, is now the information in the private keys, and that's the ownership. So by holding private keys, by owning your Bitcoin, you hold the private keys. Now you have full ownership of your digital assets without resorting to anyone else. And this is the insight. This is the breakthrough of crypto. So, you know, I'm a little bit conservative. It's not about the trading. It's not about the speculation of the tokens. For me, the Bitcoin revolution, the crypto revolution, has been about the freedom of money, having that freedom to control that information myself. Sure, we can still lose it, but at least now I have a choice. We have a choice to get stuck on this slide. Okay, so this is what freedom of money is. So when I say freedom of money, it's like freedom of speech. Freedom of speech allows us to say what we want to say. Freedom of ownership and freedom of money is the notion that for the first time, I can actually own large amounts of assets. In the old days, the only things I can really own are the things I can carry with me, the jacket, the watch, you know, whatever is in my wallet. But most of everything else is held by third-party custodians and institutions. But with crypto, whether it's a USB drive or a brain wallet, I can memorize it, I can truly own the assets and I can truly own the money. Because my bank card, whether it's a credit card, or whether it's a Wells Fargo bank account, the money in here, I nominally own it, but when things go bad, they won't let me withdraw more than $500 a day, right? Or when the bank is closed on Sunday, things like that. So we've had freedom of money since 2009. We're in the 10th year now. This is quite amazing. Imagining being in the 10th year of the invention of the computer or the invention of the internet. Very, very early. That's why you don't see the impact yet. And of course, Bitcoin is a true representation of freedom of money. We know some of the features, having limits of 21 million. And again, it's only with Bitcoin for the first time with a digital asset we can have an upper cap on the limit, okay? This is not to be taken lightly at all. It's based on information and math. We talked about how we can have a true trust in information and math forever, okay? And of course, it's borderless and global. And this is really significant. I'm giving a speech in Las Vegas, we're speaking English, but this concept of freedom of money, the concept of digital private keys, is applicable anywhere in the world, across all geographic country boundaries, across all languages and culture barriers, even across age groups, right? I joke about I have 3 dogs at home. I joke that I can even give my dogs each a Bitcoin account and they can start saving for retirement. But the reality is that in the tradition of human society, with banking, they have rules about who can get bank accounts. You have to be over 18 and so and so and so. So this is truly global and borderless. And it's not identity-based. This is the killer. Many people don't realize that, bankers and traditional people they diss Bitcoin because of the pseudo-anonymous aspect. It's not tied to identity. But I say it's a good thing because who really wants identity? Think about how you got here. You most likely took an airplane. These days in society, even airplanes, your tickets are tied to your identity. But as soon as something of value is tied to your identity, you've lost all control over it. If I hand you a piece of chocolate, once you take it, it's yours. You could eat it, you could keep it, you could throw it away. It's truly yours. But if I hand you an airline ticket, it's not really yours. Because if the name was wrong, you might not be able to fly. Or if you're on the no-fly list, then you might not be able to fly. So airlines do all these crazy things. They can bump you off the seat and all that stuff. So the point is, anything that's tied to your identity is not really yours. So we have to wake up to that fact. That's why Bitcoin is something that's truly yours, and for the same reason, it cannot be tied to your identity. Because as long as something is tied to your identity, there has to be a third-party person to verify and to agree that you are who you are. That's what I mean by no third-party control, okay, for Bitcoin. Okay, let's continue. So with information, now we're talking about private keys and public keys, okay? And this is really freedom. Just like you can send me money on the upper left corner, if you scan that QR code, that's my Bitcoin address. Starts with 193H, ends in ES. So feel free to take out your wallet and just send Bitcoin to the address. But it's actually a communal address because I've also revealed to you my private key for that account. And it's my way to share. In fact, I'm going to share with you $100. Who would like that? Would you like $100, anyone? Yeah. So why don't you stop clapping and scan that bottom right-hand QR code. So in there, you'll find $100 right there. So truly with information, we can give money, and I'm giving you a real live example. You can receive money and give money to anyone in the world through the means of digital communication. So whether it's fundraising, whether it's natural disasters, Red Cross, you can fundraise by having QR codes. We can send Bitcoin all over the world in whatever currencies they want. Or you can send money out and share it with the rest of the world as well, just like I've done over here. Okay? So anyone got the money yet? Anyone here? Any techies here? Yes? No? You got it? Yeah? Maybe? Okay, you got to hurry. Okay, so once I click, it's gone. Well, it's not cooperating. All right, come on, move. Okay, there's the password. Okay, There you go. So Bitcoin is money in the cloud, and it's the ultimate hard currency. I was born, I grew up in Africa, in West Africa, Ivory Coast. People don't believe that. Actually, it's true. I'm the first Chinese African American. So, so in Africa, money was hard to come by, and there was always a flight to hard currencies like the U.S. dollar and so on. And even in China, where I live now, there's a currency movement. Chinese renminbi is losing value, so there's a flight to the U.S. dollar. But even better than the U.S. dollar is actually Bitcoin. I know it's been going down the last few weeks, but if you think long and hard about this, Bitcoin really is the ultimate hard currency because it's at no one's mercy in terms of the control of the currency. Not about the value, but the control of the currency. Okay, so it's just information. This is the amazing part, right? For the first time, your digital assets cannot be confiscated. Now, information can be copied, but cannot be confiscated. Does that make sense? Because once you know it, you can know it. Now, you could choose to forget it, or you might make the mistake of forgetting it, but no one can pry it away from you. Whether maybe if you lose a USB drive, you can have a backup of it. Okay, for the first time in society, because in the past, if you talk to your grandparents, whatever country you're from, your parents and grandparents, they've seen episodes where things were confiscated from them, whether it's gold bars, whether it's books, and so on and so forth. But for digital assets, for the first time, you and your children and grandchildren can have real assets that cannot be confiscated, okay? So it's a great digital asset for a digital age. All right, challenges for Bitcoin. Let's talk about that. People love to ask me about what do the Chinese regulators think about Bitcoin, what are the challenges, but the reality is it's all global, okay? Global regulators think about Bitcoin together. So here it is. Here's my master list. It's decentralized, not a real currency, violates foreign currency controls, a lot of money laundering going on, lack of identity, it's used for fraud. We have pyramid schemes, hacking security risks, ICO regulation, taxation issues, corruption and graft, speculative trading, market crashes, and of course it competes with government crypto. So for a variety of reasons, for dozens and dozens of reasons, governments are all against the success of crypto. And I don't blame them because this is the true competition for their government-backed money. I think a generation from now, our kids, when they grow up, the notion of government-issued money, it's going to seem ludicrous, okay? So we will see a coming war on freedom, and it's going to start with war on cash. So when people and governments and companies take away your ability to use cash, when they force you to use money that's locked up in other institutions, that's a danger sign. They're stripping away your power. So for example, if Best Buy no longer takes cash, they only allow you to use their gift cards, that's a bad sign. Or if you work for Best Buy, they only allow you to take your salary in Best Buy gift cards, that's also a bad sign. So the global pattern is to suppress Bitcoin by regulating exchanges, banning banks from transfer money, controlling ICO token issuance, of course, requiring proof of funds when you send money, and KYC compliance, and limiting transfers. And the scariest story about this is that in China, people still do OTC transactions, buying and selling Bitcoins. What they're doing now is that when they suspect you're trading crypto, the banks will freeze your bank account. So if you had $10,000 being sent to your bank account, they suspect it's a crypto transaction, they'll freeze the whole account without due process. And it's really, really scary. This puts a whole chill on banking transactions. And it's bad, but I smile because what they're doing is precisely what's going to kill them, right? When they do things like freezing your bank accounts without due process, it'll encourage more and more people to use crypto and trust banks less and less. Okay, so a lot of FUD being created. All right, finally, governments worldwide will do more and more to suppress Bitcoin. We know that already, but the great news is Bitcoin and crypto was designed to survive with the decentralized aspect. So why do prices keep going up? Very popular question. That was a few months ago last year, but why do prices keep going down now? That's the more relevant question. But the reality is it's not, Bitcoin's value does not come from the acceptance or endorsement or regulation by governments. Rather, it comes from the failures, limitations, and inconveniences of the competition, which is the fiat money system, okay? So how many of you trade crypto here? Anyone make mistakes and lose money? Yeah? Okay, so I'm going to share with you just for fun how to hold, invest in Bitcoin, the top mistakes, okay? So some mistakes to avoid, okay? So if you have the guts, hold through this down market. Are you ready? So by applause, we're going to see how many of you have made these mistakes. Are you guys ready? Top 4 mistakes for crypto. Number 1, indecisiveness to make the investment to buy Bitcoin in the first place. Any of you? Yeah. So now is always a good time, okay? It's only $6,000. When I come back next time in a few years, it'll be much more. And number 2 is not buying enough. Have you made that mistake? Not buying enough. Oh, that's the biggest mistake I've made. Okay. And number 3 is selling after just a small gain. Maybe like 100%, 200% gain, and you sell, and it's like, oh my gosh, shouldn't have sold back then when it was $200. Okay, and then of course selling after panic crash. And this is a mistake. If you haven't made that yet, you might risk making it now. In this down market, it's very easy to make this mistake. Okay. All right. So I'm out of time. Freedom of money. So real freedom requires real control of your own money. And the concept is that, you know, as society matures, I hope all of us can go out and spread the gospel that we, as free members of society, when we appoint our own governments, we really want to retain the freedom of control because we're mature professionals, mature citizens. We deserve the right to have the freedom of our own money in our own control. Okay, thank you very much. Please follow me on Twitter.
Let's have a huge round of applause for Bobby Lee.